It's Taco Tuesday time again here on Left Off the Map, and I'm combining two very well-known Mexican recipes, chili con carne and quesadilla. Now, quesadilla is basically Mexico's version of a toasted sandwich. So instead of using bread, we're going to use tortillas. We're going to cook it like a toasted sandwich. We have to make the filling first, and the filling is going to be a chili con carne filling. We're going to add some cheese to it when we cook it as a quesadilla, but we're going to make the filling. So I've got pork mince, and then all my little additions that are going to go with that. Some tomato paste, garlic, red onion, tomatoes themselves, some chili, or some jalapenos, sorry, because I'm using jalapeno Havarti, jalapenos, and then our chili con carne spice mix. All right, mince in, I want to cook that until it's brown, and then I'll add the rest of my ingredients. Turn my heat on. Once I cook out my mince, once that's nice and brown, I'll add in my tomato paste and my garlic. Now, with your tomato paste, make sure you cook it out. It gets rid of the sweetness of the tomato paste and makes it a lot more savoury. All right, we'll get into it. I've cooked out my tomato, so that's fine. That's how you want it to be. Like I said, it gets rid of that sweetness and the rawness in the tomato. I'm going to add some fresh tomato now. So I'm going to de-seed my tomato. I don't want seeds in there. The best way to de-seed it, I think, is to cut the top and the tail off. Like that. Then just go in the side of the tomato and kind of pull it back as you cut, and you'll get rid of the heart, which is where all the seeds are. And then just chop that, well, dice that into, it doesn't have to be a really fine dice, but thinking that you're going to be putting it into a quesadilla, but it is going to cook out a little bit. So we'll add our tomatoes. We're going to do this with 2 tomatoes. Then I'm just going to add 1 of those green chilies, those jalapenos. And then my spice mix, my chili con carne spice mix. Once the mixture has cooled down a little bit, I'm going to add my red onion. And the reason I'm using red onion is because I want it to be quite fresh. I don't want to cook the onion out. So I'm going to slice this nice and thin and stir it through. And the onion will stay fresh. You can't really do that with a brown onion. You can do it with a white salad onion as well. Mix that in. There's probably enough heat, and the reason you want to take the heat out of it is the mixture is going to stick together more when it's cool and make it easier to build your quesadilla. Tomatoes have got a natural MSG in them, so that pairs really well with salt, so you need a decent amount of salt. Okay, now we can build our quesadilla. I'll pan on that hob. And just to make these a little bit easier to deal with and a little bit more pliable, I'm going to put them in the microwave for about a minute. That'll just make them a little bit more pliable, and when I'm folding them, it means that they won't split. And I can get my cheese ready now. Havarti, I think, is the best cheese for making quesadillas. Or if you can get Oaxacan cheese, that's really good as well. It's kind of, Oaxacan cheese is kind of like mozzarella. I'm gonna cut it. Pop those cubes all around my quesadilla and they'll melt into little sort of cheese bombs. All right, place your tortilla in your fry pan. Pop your mixture in. We're going to fold this in half, so like an omelette. So you want to put mixture on one side of your tortilla. And then your cheese. Like I said, we'll get little cheese bombs when this melts. All right, heat on. On a low heat because I want the heat to be able to get through and melt the cheese and not overcook the tortilla. We'll fold our tortilla over. And we'll let that cook. Then just do the same again and again and again until you run out of tortillas or you run out of mixture or everyone's full. Probably got enough mixture there to do another 4, so we'll end up with 6 of the large or the regular. So you end up getting quite a bit of a meal out of something that's nice and cheap, which is good. All right, this one can come out. Oh, look at all that cheese melting, oozing out of there. That's awesome. Whoop. Transfer that to my board. Now, I will say, allow them to cool a little bit before you eat them. Allow that cheese to sort of stick everything together, otherwise it is going to fall out all over the place. So allow them to cool for maybe 2 or 3 minutes before you get stuck in. And like I said, just keep making them until everyone's full or you run out of ingredients. Now we're going to head to the east coast of Tasmania and catch up with Chris Manson from Tasman Sea Salt to learn a little about salt farming.
We've gone from kind of one little shed, small beginning, small evaporator. Like I said, we've kind of upped our production now by about 300 or 400%.
Yep.
So that's really good. The sales in Tasmania were good to start with.
Yep.
So that's been really, really nice and strong. But yeah, slowly making our way into the mainland.
Yeah.
And kind of developing the production system as we go.
Yeah. And how have you found the Tasmanian brand is received? What, firstly within Tassie and then on the mainland?
So within Tasmania, it's incredible. So Tasmanians love Tasmanian produce, and they're really loyal to it, and that's been great for us.
Yeah,
they've been so supportive right from the very start.
Yeah.
So we couldn't be luckier in that sense. I mean, they know the quality of the produce.
Yeah.
So I think that's why they're so supportive of it. Internationally, it's been amazing as well. We've gone out, we've just done a trade fair recently in Singapore.
Yeah.
And straight away, everyone that comes to the Tasmanian stall there knows about Tasmania.
Yeah.
They know that it's got amazing produce, that the provenance is incredible, that it's really from a nice, clean, green environment.
Yeah.
And that makes such a difference. It gives you that foot in the door on the international scene.
All right, give us a lesson in salt making.
So our salt making comes from the beautiful water, really.
Yep.
I mean, that's the key thing to our process, is that we have beautiful, clean, really nutrient-rich water, and so we do as little to it as we possibly can.
So how did you pick this spot? Was it just that it looks like that?
This spot,
or was there more to it?
Yeah, well, the looks always help. Yeah, that's great. But this spot is mainly because of the environment, and because of the cleanliness of the water. So the first thing being the cleanliness. So we keep it as a totally unrefined salt.
Yep.
We don't do anything to it. As you'll see in the process, most salts often have to be washed or cleaned or bleached in order to make them look nice.
Yeah.
We don't do any of that, and that keeps all the trace minerals and nutrients in there.
Yep.
So by doing that, that keeps the flavour in there as well. It's those little naturally occurring minerals and nutrients that keep the flavour, that give you your flavour out of your salt.
I've been using your salt for it'd be close to, well, from whenever you started.
Yeah.
I reckon you had just come on the market. I found you in a little deli grocer in Devonport, and they said, take this home and try it. And I've used it from that point on. So it is, from my opinion, I try lots of salts because salt as a chef to a chef is really important.
Yep.
And I cannot find one that's better than yours.
Yeah, well, like I said, we're very lucky we've got the incredible water here. I mean, the biggest compliment that chefs give to us is your salt tastes like the sea.
Yeah.
It's got that flavour of...
Tastes like salt.
Yeah.
Yeah, like it's meant to.
Yeah, when you go for a swim and you jump in the water,
Yeah.
that's the flavour that you're getting. And that's because we keep it really natural, really clean,
Yep.
and do as little to it as possible.
So water comes in.
So water comes in, goes into our evaporator here.
Yep.
So this is not been done before in salt making.
Yep.
We're the only ones to do it this way. And we can do it this way because of the environment where we are.
Yep.
So it's all about humidity and temperature.
Yep.
So by doing it this way, we use very little energy. Traditional methods of salt either use your big salt flats,
Yep.
where you're taking up a really large land footprint, or you essentially boil the water.
Yep.
Boiling the water uses huge amounts of energy,
Energy.
so we can't do that, or we don't want to do that. So this way is using simple technology, but just not used in salt making.
Yep.
So basically, we spray the water out at the top of this, runs down lots of little channels. We then pass an air current against that, and because it's so dry here on the east coast,
Yep.
that air evaporates off the fresh water, and we have freshwater vapour coming out the top and a concentrated brine at the bottom.
So really intense.
Really, really concentrated.
Yep.
The water can't take any more salt. It's that concentrated.
Yep.
And once we get it to that point, we then bleed it off.
Yep.
So to help with the evaporation, we then use a bit of solar heat during the day. And then during the night time, we also use seawater temperature. So we can use both of those things, naturally occurring energies, to heat up the brine going through our evaporator, and that helps to speed up our evaporation rate as well. Once we get it to the saturated point, we then bleed it off, and then we take it inside, and we just heat it really gently.
All right, let's go inside and have a look.
Cool. So basically we come in here, over this side here we've got our filtration. So all we do is filter out a bit of weed and shell.
Yep.
And then we've got some sand filters there as well, just to get rid of anything else. So we don't touch the water at all in any way or alter it. From there we bleed our saturated brine down into the crystallization pans, and then we just heat those really gently. So again, it's just another form of evaporation, but this time we can do it in a more controlled environment. The temperature at which we crystallize it at determines the size of the flakes. So that means that the higher the temperature, the finer the flake, the lower the temperature, the coarser the flake.
And then...
So we can just there's a tray in the bottom of this with a mesh on the bottom of that.
Yep.
So the salt crystals form on the surface and then sink to the bottom.
Yep.
And then from there we remove the tray, dry the salt off,
Yep.
and then put another tray in.
And then that salt gets packed
Yep.
and off it goes.
Yep. So we don't do anything to it. Keep it as unrefined and raw as possible.
Awesome. Well, keep doing a good job, mate. As I said,
Cool.
I've tried copious amounts of different salts, and I would not change from the one that I use with you guys. But good work. I'm glad you decided to become a salt farmer and not stick with doing law.
Well, I was a terrible lawyer.
I've been using Tasman sea salt for a lot of years now, and I seriously do think it is the best sea salt you can get. So if you can buy it wherever you are, give it a try. You'll absolutely love it. It's a nice light seasoning, so it means you can actually season quite liberally. It's beautiful. And as we saw, it's taken directly from the ocean on the east coast of Tasmania. So I'm going to use a little bit of salt for this dish, but the main thing, this is a dish that we've been working on at Peacock and Jones with the chef there, Ishan Achaya. And he makes a nasturtium oil because he can forage nasturtiums from around Hobart. So we're going to do the same. I have nasturtiums here in the garden. They sort of grow quite liberally all over the place. And I'm going to turn the nasturtiums into an oil, and I'm going to serve it with some Huon salmon, and just raw Huon salmon. So we've taken this sashimi grade loin out of the salmon that we broke down. I'm going to use that to create the sashimi. A little bit of acid and texture from a shallot and a lime and a lemon, and the oil will be our sauce or our seasoning that goes on top of that. You can follow this process for any green leafy herb or any spring leaves or anything that has chlorophyll in it will extract that flavour and that colour out of the leaves by going through this process. Got a pot of boiling water, and one thing I need to get ready before we put our nasturtiums in the boiling water is another bowl of ice water, because you need to refresh the herbs as soon as they come out of the boiling water so they hold on to that colour. My water's boiling. I've now got my ice water to refresh, so I can pop my nasturtium leaves into my boiling water. So I only need to be in there for a very short amount of time. I'm going to turn that off so I can see what I'm doing with my spider. Scoop out my nasturtium leaves. You can see the change in colour from when they went in, which they were sort of a dull green when they went in, to that really vibrant green now. Put them into our ice water. So we'll just give that 30 seconds just for everything to cool down, to contract, so we don't leach out any more of that, that chlorophyll, that green colouring that we're after. Then we'll take it out, pat it dry on a tea towel, and then it will go into a blender with some olive oil. You want good quality olive oil because you're using this as a dressing oil. You could use grapeseed oil or a cold pressed canola if you wanted to, and just rely on the flavour that you get from the nasturtiums. But the nasturtium flavour goes really nicely with that grassy flavour of a good extra virgin olive oil. So we're going to use a really good quality extra virgin olive oil. My nasturtium oil is done. It's got a nice green hue on it. All right, so we're going to finish off the rest of the dish. My sashimi, I'm going to cut a few slices of that. Remember with sashimi that you want one movement with the knife. So start at the heel and run to the point. And one movement pulling towards you. You don't want to saw back and forth. So one clean movement through the fish. Alrighty. So we've got 5 beautiful pieces of sashimi. Place them into our bowl. We're going to add our seasoning. Actually, I might prepare my shallot first. So my shallot, and you could probably use a red onion for this if you wanted to, but shallots are just a little bit more delicate in flavour for a delicate piece of fish. I'm just going to dice this really fine to give some texture and crunch to the top of the dish. Because that salmon is so tender and so light, we need something to give it a little bit of texture, a little bit of crunch. Right, I'll take the end off. So this is where you want to cut really fine millimetre size battens or ribbons in your shallot. The finer you can get these, the finer your dice will be. And then you want to add, normally if you were dicing, you'd probably only go 1 or 2 horizontal cuts. I'm going to go 3 this time. We don't need a lot. Our acid now. Now I just want to dress every piece of fish with a little bit of lemon. So just squeeze a little bit of lemon on each piece. And if you let that sit there for a while, the flesh will actually start to go opaque because the acid will start to cook or denature the protein. A little bit of shallot on top of each piece of salmon. And then finally, our oil. So that's a home, and what I will do is probably finish it off with some baby nasturtium leaves or some nasturtium flowers that I'll go and pick from the garden. That's a home version of what we do at Peacock and Jones. The one at Peacock and Jones, the oil takes a lot longer to make. We extract even more flavour and even more colour out of it. Serve it with a buttermilk instead of the lime, which gives it the nice acidity, and also buttermilk carries the flavour really well. And those foraged nasturtiums, which I think with olive oil, is a fantastic combination of flavours between the nasturtium flavour and that grassy flavour that you get in olive oil. So you can make this at home, but if you're in Tasmania, come to Peacock and Jones and try the one that Ishan makes.